Hi, good evening, guys. Welcome to Eli-b. I'm Claire Watson from Eli-b Create and Sew. Tonight I'm going to be, this evening going to be teaching you how to create your own Tailor's hem and sleeve roll. So we're going to go through how to lay and cut out your pattern pieces, as well as then learning techniques, teaching you techniques on how to sew darts, as well as how to manage curves, nice curves. So what I'm going to do is going to take you through how to set up your pattern pieces, and then we're going to go through laying and cutting out. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to say hello to a few people. Hi, Donalyn. Hi, Angela. Tailor, Janet. Hello. I'm going to pop in. Hi, Sheila. I'm going to pop in and just say hi if you have messages and I don't get to respond to them during the session, then I will answer them after our session this evening. But so lovely to see all the names popping up. So right, guys, so we're going to start off with those of you who have your patterns already. If you like the pattern and didn't get it in time, then do feel free to register with us. That's Eli-b Create and Sew, and then I can email it over to you. So we're going to start off, you might have done this already at home, but we're going to just prepare the pattern piece. So this, we're going to start off with our Tailor's sleeve rolls, should I say. So we've got two pieces printed off on A4, and you'll see there's a little square here. What I'm going to do is cut along this dashed line over here, so that I can then marry up this little square with the square on the other half of the pattern. So it doesn't matter which one you do. So just cut along that dashed line, like so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to place, maybe you can see if I pull this out here. We're going to place that on the table, and then we're going to take our nice cut edge and place it on top. So I want to make sure that my grain line runs nice and straight, and that I've actually created that nice little box. So I'm just going to pop a few pins in to hold that in place before I put sellotape across the top. Sorry about the noise. So there we go. So that's now bound those two pieces together. Okay. So you'll see that they join nicely. I'm also going to sellotape a section along the back, because this will make sure that the pieces don't flap around. Because sometimes if we don't sellotape our joins, then you'll be busy laying out your pattern piece and cutting, and then it rips. Okay, so then just cut with the scissors along the solid line on the edge. Okay. So what I want you to do is also prepare your Tailor's hem in exactly the same way. As I say this, you may have already done this at home, but I just thought sometimes people like a little help with how to actually stick their PDF patterns together. So this way you make sure that you're not missing out any of the pattern itself. So cut all the way around on the solid line. And then we're going to move on to laying and cutting out the fabric from our little pattern pieces. Right, nearly done. Okay, here we go. All right, so now we're going to take our fabric, and I'm going to, we're going to use a very thick denim fabric, or a bull denim, and that is going to be for the underside of our sleeve roll. Okay, so I've used a thick denim for the backing, and then I've just used a pretty 100% cotton for the top layer. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric, I think you can see, and we're going to place our cotton layer, so our denim layer down, and then we're going to take our cotton. Now I've purposefully left this piece so that it has a selvage attached to it, so that you can use your selvage as a reference when you are measuring and measuring before you pin and cut out your fabric. So I'm going to take the cloth and put it right side facing the right side of my denim layer, and I want to make sure that I put both pieces together on the edge like that. See? So So both edges are together, and therefore my selvage edge will mean that when I cut and measure, it's going to be parallel. So they'll both be cut in one go, and I won't need to then cut out the other half. So it just speeds up our cutting time a bit. So I'm going to take my sleeve roll pattern piece. I'm going to just tilt this down so hopefully you can see a bit better what I'm doing. Okay, so taking my sleeve roll, and I'm going to measure, well, I'm going to place a pin. I'll put that like, there we go, like that, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to place a pin in the middle, in line, should I say, with my grain line at the top like this. So I'm going to pin through both layers. I'm going to now measure that my grain line measures parallel to this selvage edge. Okay, so I'm going to just use a ruler because it's short enough. So I've got 8 centimeters at the top of my pattern piece, and I'm going to measure down the bottom end. I want this to measure 8 centimeters too. It doesn't measure 8, so I'm going to pivot the pattern piece until I am parallel. So again, grain line runs parallel to my selvage edge. Then I'm going to place another pin in like so. So now I'm going to just put a couple more pins around the edge of the sleeve roll, and you'll notice that I'm pinning within the seam allowance. So this dashed line on your pattern piece refers to a seam allowance, which is the difference between where we cut and where we sew. So all pattern pieces will have a seam allowance, and when the pattern makers make them, they will determine a seam allowance based on the project that they are, or the design of their creation. So now we're going to move this over, and there we go. Just bear with me while I try and get the camera to do what I want it to do. So now what we're going to do is place on our tailor's ham onto the fabric as well. And what I want to do here is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to place a pin in line with my grain line, and I'm going to measure back from the grain line to my selvage, and that measurement must measure the same at the bottom of the pattern piece. So we'll go through that together again. So position your tailor's ham, place a pin in line with your grain line. Okay, so you'll see I've got a pin in line with my grain line, and I'm going to measure from my grain line all the way to my selvage edge, which now measures 32.5. So you'll see this pattern piece can pivot quite nicely. So now I want to make sure that this measurement is also 32.5. There we go. Perfect. Okay, super. So I'm going to move this here so you can hopefully see a bit better, and just pop another couple pins in. And again, we are basically pinning through all the layers so that when we cut, we have 2 exact duplicates, one for the top layer and one for the underside. Right, so nearly there. Okay, and we're going to cut out next. So I hope I'm not going too fast. So when we come to cut, okay, we're going to just cut into the fabric just so you can get going. And I always put my finger like this on the edge of my blade, because when you're cutting, it just gives your hand a bit of better control. So you'll see now I'm able to get quite close to my pattern piece without cutting the paper pattern piece itself. So I just want you to cut all the way around. So you're going to cut those pieces out. And as I say, if you've done this step at home, that's fine. Hopefully you've picked up a couple tips in terms of getting your grain lines straight and things like that just from watching. Grain lines are really, or getting them straight or parallel to your selvage edge is imperative when it comes to sewing. If your grain line is off, the whole garment or item that you're making won't really behave itself. So what we're now going to do is we're going to snip in our notches. So you'll notice on our pattern piece there's all these little indentations on the pattern piece. So what I'd like you to do is literally just snip in a 5mm snip. See, that's all you're going to do. And that's snipping through both layers. So what it's going to do is help us match the two up together when we come to sew them. So go around your pattern pieces, putting in snips where your notches are, all the way around. Now notches sometimes can be triangular in shape on a pattern piece, so that's what they will usually look like. And they are, as I said, used to match up one pattern piece with another. So they're quite important. I do like notches quite a bit. So I'm always notches. We need lots of notches when it comes to making patterns. And it really does help. A lot of my clients who attend classes, they know that I'm a bit of a queen when it comes to notches. But it definitely helps. So ladies, who of you are on that can vouch for me on that? Right, so we're going to do the same with our sleeve roll. So just go ahead and cut that out as well. Again, just on the outer edge, all the way around. And again, you're going to do the notches as well. Okay. Get that pin. I do not want to cut over a pin. I did that once with a really lovely pair of dressmaking scissors, and they were never the same again. So always just make sure you never have a pin in the way when you're cutting out. Okay, let's get rid of that. Right, okay, so again, do your little notches, lots of notches, all the way around your sleeve roll. And our next task is going to be to draw in or mark in our darts. Okay, so today's lesson or session, you're going to learn how to sew a dart. So if you've never sewn a dart before, these are little darts, but it's just a little intro on how to sew darts, because darts are useful in clothing, especially if you are wanting to taper something into the waist or under the bust or on the side, lift up the garment. So darts can be really, really good. So, right, we're gonna now take the pins off. And before you take all your pins off, sorry, I'm just gonna interject for a second. We want to be able to transfer these darts nicely onto the wrong side of our fabric. So what I'm going to do is take the pin and I'm going to poke it right the way through the point of the dart. So you see it comes out on the back side there as well. Okay, so I'm going to take the pins and literally push them through the point of the darts all the way around the tailor's ham. And this will all make sense in a minute. Okay, so there we go. So we've got 2 darts at the top on that side, 2 on that side, 2 at the bottom, and you'll see the pins sticking out on the other side. So what I'm going to do now, because we have our fabrics right side facing, we've got the wrong side of the fabric facing us. So where these little pins pop out, I'm going to put a little mark like this. Okay, oh dear, there we go. So we're going to pop little marks just where these pins come out of the fabric. Okay, and then I'm going to peel the pattern back and expose so I can mark the dart at the base of the pin there too. So just mark all those little points all the way around your tailor's ham. Now you might just want to work on one of these this evening and then follow on and do your sleeve roll. So I'm going to work on the tailor's ham and take you through doing the tailor's ham. And then what we will do is you can follow the same principles to finish the other one later on tomorrow or whenever you get a chance. So we're now going to mark the top of our darts, okay? So we mark the point, and now I want to transfer these 2 little markings there onto my fabric, like so, okay? And then I'm going to do, the same on the denim layer, like so. So you can see now I've got the points to draw my little triangle. So just do that all the way around, marking the darts, the starting point of our darts all the way around our tailor's ham. Shouldn't take too long. And then make sure that you've done both sides. Okay, so this is just so that we've got something to follow when we come to sew our darts. Right, I think I've done those. So now we're going to take the pins out. So take your pins out all the way around. And we are now going to draw in our darts. Okay, so we're going to just tilt you down again. Sorry. Okay, so we're now going to take our ruler, and I'm going to basically take that little dot and draw to the point, and then draw to the point. So you'll see I've now drawn in my little dart. So I'd like you to go all the way around, drawing in those darts all the way around your tailor's ham. Or it could be that you're working on the sleeve roll, so then just do it on the sleeve roll. Okay, and so this is the denim layer that I'm working on at the moment. I'm going to flip it over and draw the darts in onto the fabric layer. So there is my little tailor's ham with its 6 darts. Now I'm going to flip over and do the same on the wrong side of my top side. I must say, this fabric I've absolutely I love it. It's an offcut from a lining, so I'm making a gilet, and I've used this fabric in the lining of the gilet, and I actually really love it, and it's a lovely cotton poplin. So I thought, oh well, let's make another tailor's ham and sleeve roll. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so we've got our darts marked on that side too. Okay, so what we're going to do now is pin our darts so that we're ready to sew them. So I'll demonstrate on our denim layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold the fabric like so, and we're going to pin now. So I'm going to just change the angle of the camera to the back so that I can put my hands behind and you can see better. Okay, right, so we're going to place a pin in the bottom of the dart like so. Okay, and then we're going to match the 2 little blue lines together over there, so you can see there and there, and then 1 pin going in the fold and pivot out at a 45-degree angle. So you'll see that the needle is coming out at the top of my dart, and if I flip it over, you'll see that the pin is on the line. So the idea is that we're going to now start stitching from the top. We're going to do a forwards and a backwards, and we're going to sew to the point. Okay, now as we approach the corner, so the point, we're going to change the length of our stitch on our machine. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be changing your stitch length, and the normal kind of stitch length on your sewing machine will be set to 2.5. So we're going to play around a little bit today, and we're going to move from 2.5 down to 0.5. Okay, so your stitches are going to get smaller. So we'll sew the first one together, and then you can go back and practice that technique of pinning your darts, because the idea with pinning on the actual edge of when you're pinning on the edge of the line, then you don't tend when you're pinning on the edge, you're not actually pinning onto your garment. I'm sorry, I'm seeing a couple messages saying I'm freezing up, so I'm not too sure. I hope it sorts itself out. So we're going to start stitching that dart now. So I'm going to start right at the top. Is it any better, Wendy? Okay, so we're going to come forwards and backwards, and then I'm reducing my stitch length as I approach that corner of the dart, or the point of the dart. don't stitch off the edge of your fabric completely. So if you can see that, my needle is still just on the edge. So bring that off. There we go. So you'll see that we have stitched right to the edge of the fabric. Okay. Right. So, okay, great. You're back, Wendy. Good. Okay, so we are going to stitch the darts all the way around, okay? So you'll notice now, look, there's the little dart. Okay, so that's on the wrong side. So you can see we've gone down and the stitches have gotten smaller as we've got to the point. So that's really the key. Okay, so we're going to go over pinning that dart again. So pin through the point like so. And then we're going to pin in and out. And when you come out, you want to make sure that your pin is exiting on that line. And again, the reason for doing that is so that we don't end up with stitches on the right side of our garment. So you don't want to be also back stitching a point when you're doing a dart. If you reverse at the point of your dart, it ends up with a real lump. And the objective of a dart is so that it actually just tapers, but then disappears. So it creates an area of fullness and then nips it in where you need it. So you don't want it to be like pointy, like a Madonna style point. So we're going to go forwards and backwards on 2.5, and then quickly decrease your stitch length down to 0.5 at the point. So be careful not to stitch off completely when you come to the edge of your dart. If you do that, you might well jam and snap your threads. So we're just going to continue going along and doing all of those little darts. Okay, so we're going to do the same on this on our back side, and then we're going to repeat it onto the front side. So on our printed layer of fabric. So I'm just going to go back to 2.5 on my stitch length, forwards and backwards at the top, and then quickly decrease as I approach my point and stop. And you'll see I'm leaving quite a decent length of thread, and the reason that I do that is because when you get to the ends of your darts, as I said earlier, you don't want to be back stitching, so you don't want to be reversing, you want to tie them off. So I'm just going to make a little knot and tie off the darts like that. And then you can take those threads, thread them through a needle, and then feed them up the middle of your dart and then snip off. Or you could, I mean, this is a tailor's ham, so we're going to do a little cheat, and once you've knotted, you're just going to go snip, it's off, it's gone. Okay, so feel okay to do that. So just keep going with sewing those darts all the way around, and then tie, as I said, knot and tie them off. And that just stops, I mean, the stitches went down to 0.5, so it's highly unlikely that your point will ever unravel. But that's why if you were doing this on a garment, I would definitely recommend the technique of taking your threads and sending them up the middle of the dart. And then you just pull them and tie them off. So we're going to keep going with doing all of these little darts. So how many have we got? Oh my word, I've still got another 3 to do. Okay, so we got to pick up the pace. But I know that so who of you are actually sewing along at home? Because I know there was a few of you who said that you were going to be stitching along. So if I'm going too fast, send a little message and say, slow down, Claire. So again, stitch length 2.5 down to 0.5 at the point. Okay, so keep going with those darts all the way around. You'll be a pro at darts. I know they're really little ones. Oh, I'm glad you're sewing along, Sheila. That's great. And Angela, yay, all the way from Jersey. Oh, I'm sorry, Anna, I am a little bit fast. Okay, I'll slow down a little bit. Okay, I will slow down. Okay, Donnellan. That's fine. We're just doing the darts, okay? So I'll go over that little technique of pinning your dart again. So through the point and then in and out. I hope you can see that okay. So the pin is coming out on the line like that. So we've got our point and then all the way to the top. Okay. Second dart. Well done, Janet. That's great. I must say I've so missed our face-to-face classes. So this is what the second Facebook Live. And it's nice, it's different. It's not the same as having you all in the class with me. But this is as good as we're gonna get, I guess. So we've got to make the most of it, hey? Okay. Gillian, well done. You're also sewing along. That's great. Okay, so again, I'm going to just tie off that little dart and knot it. And then, as I said, on this, we're just going to snip them off. But if this was a garment, I would definitely be taking the time to thread them through a needle and send them up the middle of the dart. So we're just going to keep on going. If I can just grab hold of this thread. Okay. Oh, thumbs at the minute. Okay, right, there we go. So this will take a fair bit of time to get all these darts done, but no rush. Take it at your speed. I hope that what I've explained, I think I'm on my last one now, on the denim layer, and then we've just got to do the same on the fabric layer. So I'll go through that dart again one more time. So through the point, so we've got, there's the dart. Okay, so we've got our little point. So through the point, fold your fabric in half, align up your little blue line marker from here and the marker on that side, and then in the folded edge and out through on the line. So you can see in and needle coming out on that side, and the same, see my pin is exiting on the little blue line. So going to stitch forwards and backwards again on a stitch length of 2.5. So forwards and backwards, and then as we get smaller we reduce our stitch length as we approach our point. There we go. Pull it out and then tie off all of those little loose threads. So knot them and then trim off all of your excess threads. I tend to snip and tidy up as I go, and that's just something that I've always done, because it means then that as you're stitching, you're keeping everything nice and neat, so you don't end up with a ball of threads that you're stitching into your garment or item, whatever it is that you're making. So it means that your finish is just that little bit nicer. So okay, right, so there's the dart. So you can see now from a flat piece, it's now actually it's getting a dimension to it. Okay, so we've got our darts on our underlayer. So we're now going to put our darts in on the top layer. So again, just follow the same process by folding your fabric, pinning it, and sewing through all of your darts. Okay. So 2.5 stitch length, forwards, backwards, then down to 0.5 at the point. Have I slowed down enough? Oh, so Wendy, we are reducing the stitch length down to 0.5. So normal stitch length would be 2.5, and you're just reducing your stitches to 0.5 so that they become smaller and closer together. Great, glad you got it, good. Sorry, yes, it is a little bit noisy, my faithful Janome. I'm a bit of a Janome, I mean, I've sewn on Janomes for many years. I started out on my mum's machine when I was a little girl, and I actually burnt the motor out. Sorry, Mom. So, and then she was kind enough to let me use her Elna when I started studying. So I was very, very lucky she let me back on the machine after that. So again, just pinning those darts and going forwards and backwards. I must say, I think nowadays, I'm sure she doesn't mind. And in fact, I know she doesn't mind. Do you, Thalia? Right. And reduce to the point. Okay. So just keep going all the way around. Now, when I was making this pattern piece, I did put quite a few darts in because I felt that darts are a really good thing to get practice on. And something like this is little, so yes, your darts are short. But it's really, when you want to perfect a skill in sewing, it's about repetition. Practice, practice, more practice. So I remember when I was very little, I used to make scrunchy hairbands, actually at junior school. And I must have made over 100 scrunchies. And it was so weird when I did the YouTube video on how to make scrunchies. It felt like I was going back in time to way back in the day when it all began. So, and practice, that was just practice, straight lines. And nowadays, a straight line is kind of, it feels like sometimes I have a spirit level built into my eyeball. So sometimes I can look at something and go, oh, that's out by like 3 mil. And you think, really? You measure it and it's 3 mil. So eventually with practice, I'm sure you will develop the same skill set. So where are we with, how many dots have we done? I've got 3 more to do on my outer layer. Any questions before I carry on, and it'll give you guys a bit of time to catch up? Forwards and backwards, and again we're just reducing as we get to that point to 0.5. And so we just tie off, knot, and snip off. Okay, and 4 more to do on outer layer. Well done. 5 more, Kirstine, that's great. Well done, Angela. Yes, Donalyn, I was lucky that my mum let me use her machine twice too, especially after I burnt out the motor on the first. We're lucky in my extended family that there's electricians in the family. So my uncle kindly replaced the motor and got it going for her again. So okay, you're finishing your back of your ham, still got the front to do. That's fine, Stuart, that's fine, no rush. I hope you guys are having fun. That's kind of the objective of this. It's not to rush through, it's to have fun. And I hope you are having fun. Okay, so how many more have we got? Another 2 more to do. Okay. So the question is, are we feeling more confident or with your dart sewing? So are you feeling like this is now becoming something that's not too challenging? Because that's the hope. The hope of these little videos is, or sessions, is to kind of tackle things we haven't done before, potentially for some of you. There we go, let's snip that off. And 1 more to do. Okay. And so I'm on my last one. So I'm just going to take my time on this one. Okay, right. So again, if you are only checking in now, to do a dart, we start off on a stitch length of 2.5, back stitch a reverse at the beginning, and as you travel down the point of your dart, you're going to reduce your stitch length down to 0.5. Don't reverse at the point of your dart, okay? Really, really important. And you just want to finish that dart right on the edge. Okay. Now have got my iron plugged in. Yes, we are going to use the iron. And I have a little, what would you call it when you make a word shorter into like a little phrase? Is it an anagram? I don't know. English wasn't my strong suit at school, but sewing was. Luckily for you. So we pin, sew, press, PSP. What we pin, we sew, we then press. And pressing is really important when you are making something. It gives, by pressing, if you've stitched something and you don't press and you leave it to the end and then you're trying to press out all of the kind of creases, what you're not enabling to happen is for you to kind of set the stitches. So sometimes, depending on your fabric, your tension, all that sort of thing, your fabric can kind of rouge up a little bit when you're stitching. So by pressing as you go, so each thing that you stitch, if you press it and use a bit of steam, depending obviously on the cloth that you're using, what will happen is it'll actually take out that tension in the seam or in the stitches, and then it will set it. So you're kind of stretching and setting your stitches as you work. So it's not like you've got to the end of something, it's all rucked up and now you've got to try and magic the crinkles away. It's never going to happen. So pin, sew, press, PSP. There's top tip. So are we ready to press on, so to speak? So I'm going to bring my ironing board. I'm going to cheat. I've got a little tabletop ironing board. It's like a very fine art space to work here, but it works. So what we're going to do now is press those little darts. So I'm going to press the two at the bottom inwards, okay, to face each other, and then the others I'm also going to face basically to the center. So if you think about your little tailor's ham or your sleeve roll, whichever one you're working on, you have a central line, so we're going to push them towards the middle, so toward the center. Okay, now also I have to share with you a little top tip about friction pens. These little bad boys, friction pens. I love a friction pen because you can mark things quite easily on the wrong side of your fabric, and when you press, it's like magic. It disappears. So I'm going to demonstrate for you now. So I'm pressing these ones to the center, steam, and have a look. She's vanished. It's gone. And now you'll see how nicely that little dart pops out. See? So I want you to go along and press your darts towards the center. Okay. And press the darts towards your center. So, okay. And I'm going to post this video onto my YouTube channel. So in case you have missed it, you're going to get all the extra chitter chatter along the way, but at least you'll have the knowledge of what we've done. So now you're going to see, I'm going to do my denim layers. I'm going to press again these ones to the center, these two to the center, this one here at the bottom to the center, so they're going to go towards the middle. Usually when you are pressing darts on a garment, you're always going towards your side seams and away from your body towards your center back. But I am pressing these towards the middle. Let's just wait for this iron to heat up a little bit, because sometimes it spews out if it's not reached the right temperature. Okay, let's carry on. Are you going to take off it? There we go. Okay, and towards the center. Okay, and towards the center. Okay, there we go. So you see, like I said, like magic, that pen mark has just totally disappeared. Oh, that's quite warm. Okay, so totally disappeared, and now you'll see your tailor's ham is actually getting a shape to it. So let's pop that to one side. So how are we doing? Are we getting close to? Are we ready to move on? How are we doing, guys? Okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm now going to pin our outer to the underside and the top side together. And we're going to do this putting the right sides of the fabric together. So I'm going to take the top curved seam and I'm going to marry it up with the other top. So we're going to put dart and dart together. 3 to do. That's okay, Kirstine, no problem. That's fine, Stuart, you keep darting. That's good. I love it. So right sides facing right sides. We're going to get to doing that in a minute. Okay. So if you are ready to move on, you might actually want to, if you're kind of ahead, then you could crack on with marking out the darts in the meantime with your sleeve roll. So I'll start doing that to give everyone a chance to catch up, and I'll just kind of go through what we've done before in the meantime. So pins through the points of the dart at the top, and then also pinning through my darts at the bottom. So we've got the pins through like that, and remember we're now going to mark the points. So I'm going to put a little pin mark where the pin pops out like so, and then in line at the top with my dart like so, and then just fold back the pattern piece like so that I can mark the dart at the top as well. And then fold back. So just mark those dots in place. So if you're only jumping on now, Jackie, I think I see you've just, yep, that's fine. You do it at your own pace. That's absolutely fine. So I'm looking to plan a few more of these sew-alongs until we can resume face-to-face classes again, which I hope won't be too much longer. It's, yeah, funny times, but we've got to keep sewing on, don't we? You know, we've got to keep our joy and keep encouraging each other along the way, you know. So just mark all of those little darts in place. Great, Val, so glad you're following along. Hi, Jackie. Okay, Amanda, you're asking, how do I find you on YouTube? Oh, just search Eli-b Create and Sew by Claire Watson, and it should pop up. I'm wearing my pink top, my traditional pink top. I love that top. I've probably made that particular pattern 4 times. I've got the same top cut out in another pink version. So I love that cowl neck top. It's a lovely, lovely top. It's really flattering. for the bits, you know. So, right, so just draw in those dots. Okay, so as I said, I'm just doing this to allow a little bit of time for everybody to catch up on the tailor's ham or sleeve roll. If you've done all of your darts, just give me a thumbs up so that I know that you've done your darts, and then it'll give me a gauge. Ah, great. Glad you found me, Amanda. There's a few little things on there as well, like how to thread your sewing machine and things like that. Right, so marked all of those dots, like so. And as I say, I'm just going to continue doing this until such time as I've had a couple more high fives, thumbs up to say that you're ready. Okay, so Angela, you're ready, that's good. So just through the point of the dart, and then in and out, making sure that your pin is on the edge of the line, like so, and all the way around. Okay, so Val, Sheila, you're all on top. Failure, you're on top, as in you're ready. Okay, I'll just wait a few more minutes, just keep pinning these other dots. So you're going to find that that these tools really help you when it comes to pressing. Tailor's hams are fantastic for pressing seams that are outward curving. So if you're working on a jacket or a blouse or anything really that is stitched in an outward curving direction, the tailor's ham really helps you to press those seams out, and then obviously a bit of steam helps you to set the stitches. So tailor's hams are nifty for that. And your sleeve roll is really invaluable when it comes to pressing seams open on, say for example, sleeve seams. You can't fit a sleeve on a big ironing board. So the objective of a sleeve roll is it's nice and narrow and you can fit it nicely into those seams, as well as pressing inside leg seams of trousers. You don't want to squish, you know, if you're not wanting to squish a whole lot of fabric and you're wanting to iron or press a small space, then these tools will help you do that without compromising the rest of the thing that you're working on. So I'm going to just sew 2 of these, and then we're going to continue. So I'll then jump back onto the tailor's ham. So again, start off your dart with a little back stitch, a little reverse, and then as you approach your point, just reduce your stitch length to 0.5. There we go. And just keep going around. How are we doing? I'll do one more and then we're gonna press on. Okay, that's my iron telling me I haven't used it for a bit. Nifty little feature. If it isn't used, it'll bleep at you, so in case it stops me leaving it on. Okay, Kirstine, you're done. How are we doing, Stuart? Ah, last one. Great job. Good timing. Good timing. Okay. Just snipping off those little threads and knotting the points of the dart. Okay. Right. There we go. Do one more and then we'll continue. So forwards and backwards on 2.5 stitch length and down to 0.5 on the point. Okay. Just knotting that little dart and going to snip off the threads and then press. I'll do one more. last one haven't pressed. That's okay, Janet. You can do that in a mo. But, or are you saying you're not going to press? Full stop. That's the question. Right. And if that's the case, then I didn't read that one. And that's it. Okay. All right, so just tying off those little darts. There we go. Knot and snip off the threads. Okay. Right. Little press. And then we're going to carry on, and we're going to pick up, or we'll carry on with the tailor's ham. Okay. Ooh, it's like you have a deep cleanse at the same time if your iron likes to put out a lot of steam. Oh no. Either that or end up with frizzy hair. That's one of the things that I tend to have to struggle with quite a lot. This wet weather isn't the best friend for me. Okay, right. Please don't fall over. Okie dokie. Right, so we're now going to carry on with our tailor's ham, and we're now going to start to put it together. So we're going to, as I said, take our darts at the top. So if you look at the shape like that, the larger curve is at the top. So what we're going to do is we're not going to stitch where my fingers are between these two darts, okay? This is going to be where we're going to close. Yes, that's where we're going to close our tailor's ham, okay? Oh, fantastic, Stuart, you deep cleanse and on time. That's great. Fantastic. So we're going to pop some pins in now. So we're going to leave the opening at the top. So what I'm going to do is put a pin in like so, and I'm going to put a pin in on this side as well, and this is going to be where we are not going to sew. Okay, so we're not going to sew that top section. So you might want to take a little friction pin and just give yourself a little reminder to say, hey, I'm not sewing, so I'm going to stop. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go wee all the way around, and I'm going to stop here. Okay, so we're now going to pin the two layers together. Now, really important, well done, Janet, you've pressed. Really important, we're going to look for the notches. Okay, so remember we snipped in those little snips like that. Okay, so I'm going to match that little snip with that little snip. So you want to make sure that you put your notches together. So as I was saying at the beginning of our session today, notches are there to help you make sure that everything matches up when you're stitching. Because if your grain line, for example, is off, it's not really things, one layer will stretch more than the other, or it could be that you are putting a sleeve into an armhole and you need to ease up your sleeve head. Your notches help that sleeve fit the armhole of the garment, for example. So it tells you exactly what needs to be where. So what we're going to do is we're going to match up these little notches together. We're going to pin in and out at a 90-degree angle with the seam edge. Okay, now the reason that I teach to pin with your pin at a 90-degree to edge angle to the seam edge, that's a lot of words, is because it's much easier to extract your pins as you're sewing. Okay, so we're just going to keep pinning around in and out. So I'm going to flip the camera, and there we go. Okay, Donalyn, so you were asking, where do you start on and stop on your sleeve roll? So on your sleeve roll at the top, you are going to, so it's got quite a big gap. So you could leave from your center line to the edge of your dart. Okay, so you could leave from your center to that dart, leave that section open. Okay, so we are going to pin, so match up my little darts, notches should I say, sorry, my notches together. There we go, see, they're together, and I'm coming in and I'm coming out like so. Okay, so when you think about it, you're stitching, you just extract your pins as you sew along like that. Okay, so pop in a couple pins at 90-degree angles to the edge of the seam and match those notches together first. So I'm matching my notches and then I will fill in with the pins. So for example, there's a notch there, there's a notch there. I've matched the two together. Now I can put a pin in over here. Okay, so matching those little notches, as I say, really, really important. So keep going around, just pinning those seams together. Now we're going to, when we come to stitch these together, pleasure Donnellan, we are going to be reducing our stitch length again. Okay, so I tend to change the stitch length a lot when I'm stitching. We are going to be stuffing this Tailor's ham and sleeve roll with shavings, wood shavings, sawdust. So I have mixed, my mix is kind of medium-sized pet bedding and then the small pet bedding. So I've mixed the two together just because I had one, a little bit left of one and needed to fill up the other, but it's also using the two different sizes is going to help it compact a bit better. Okay, so just keep matching your notches together and continuing to pin all the way around. Like so, just keep going. So you'll see it looks a little bit like a porcupine or a little hedgehog. So just keep going. So I've still got to pin this whole side here. And I'm pinning so that my denim layer is facing me. Hi Sarah Jane. And the reason that I've decided to pin my denim layer facing me is that the cotton poplin layer I've got is a thinner layer of fabric. So I want the feed dogs of my machine to do the work pulling it through the machine. So I always will stitch the thinner layer or thinner weight fabric at the bottom, so on the underside of my machine. And it just helps to make sure that the presser foot then isn't stretching that top layer of fabric as it's sewing. Because we're putting two different weight fabrics together, so we're putting a thicker and a thinner layer together. So just a little extra info there. So Angela's asking, do you have both darts going in the same way on the seam? Sewing over the bulky bits. Yes, you can sew over them going in the same direction, or you could flip them. But remember, we've pressed both lots of darts facing inward. So if you wanted to, you could flip it, it's fine. So you could make this dart, for example, face that way, and then on the reverse, you could flip the dart that way to make it a bit less bulky on the join. It's a good point. You so can do that because then your machine will just whiz over it. So up to you, you can do that, most certainly. Okay. Hi, Maggie. Right, so how are we doing? Are we almost all pinned? A couple thumbs up would be great to know how we're doing. That's fine, Angela. No, that's fine. Then definitely take them and flip them like that. Okay. All right, so this is what mine looks like. So I've got little pins all the way around like so. Okay, so Angela, you good? Okay. Just gonna move this over and then get my machine. Right, Christine, you're good. Okay. Right, and hopefully you're going to be able to see this on that. I'm going to try and line up my machine. I'm just going to move the camera down a bit. So what I'm hoping here, oh, I'm glad your iron's beeping too, Angela, that's good. So what I'm hoping is, I hope you can all see my needle plate. Now I know this is a little bit back to front, okay, but what we are going to be doing is following the 1.5 seam allowance on that needle plate. Okay, oh super, you pinned Stuart, that's great. So I hope you can all see the 1.5 centimeter seam allowance guide on your needle plate. So what we're going to start off doing is I'm going to start at this first dart at the top, and I'm going to stitch all the way around. So I'm going to start off with 1.5, making sure the fabric is on the edge of the 1.5 centimeter seam allowance guide, and I'm going to take my stitch length down to 2. Okay, so turn your stitch length or decrease your stitch length so that it's on a number 2 stitch length. Okay, so taking that down to 2, and basically going to start sewing. So hold your threads as you start sewing. Now I've left a fairly decent length on this side. When I get to the end, I'm going to leave a much longer length of thread because I'm going to use that to close up the tailor's hem at the end. Okay, so take my pin out, and we're now going to stitch forwards and backwards. So do a good back stitch at the beginning. Okay, so forwards and backwards a couple times. Okay, now what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to make sure that we keep our fabric on that 1.5 seam allowance guide. So you're going to stitch forward, and you'll notice that your fabric will start to move away. I'm going to try and bring this around this way. Okay, so you're going to notice that you will end up with a little gap over here, right? So what we're going to do is a little technique called lifting and pivoting. So I'm going to stitch forward a little bit more, keeping the fabric on my 1.5 seam allowance. Now you'll see there's a little gap over here. Lift your presser foot lever and pivot your fabric ever so slightly so that you see your fabric is back on the 1.5 centimeter seam allowance guide. Then stitch forward again. You see I'm not pulling and pushing my fabric around, I'm letting the machine do the work. So I can probably still continue one more stitch, turn the needle in, lift my presser foot, extract the pin, and pivot the fabric. So the trick here is to keep your seam allowance on your 1.5 seam allowance. Put your presser foot back down again. As I come over my darts, you might need to help them through. And see, we've got another little gap forming over here. Needle in, lift, and pivot. Extract your pin. So just keep going by lifting and pivoting. There is a tendency to want to force your fabric around the curve. I would kind of urge you against not doing that, because what you tend to then do is stretch the fabric on the curved edge, and then that distorts the whole shape. So continue to stitch your curve, needle in, lift and pivot. Okay, so just keep on going around your curved seam. Needle in before you take your pin out, and then lift and pivot. So just keep stitching. Okay, lift, pivot ever so slightly. Needle in. Take my pin out. Okay. Needle in, lift, and pivot. There we go. This is taking me a little while because I'm now doing it one-handed, so I hope I'm not making you seasick by watching this up, down. But I hope that you can see the benefit of stitching a curved seam in such a way. It takes a little bit longer, but it is definitely worth it because you end up with a really nice curved seam, and you are mirroring what you have cut. So you're mirroring the cut edge of the fabric. Needle in, lift, and pivot. So you're going to keep doing that all the way until you get to the end. Just pop this back in here. Okay, so you're going to keep going round until you've reached the end. So just continue to sew around the curved seam. Lift and pivot. We're going to use the iron again as well, and we're going to press our seam allowances open as best we can. Needle in, and then take your pin out. So we're going to keep on. Oh, I'm glad you like the tip, Wendy. So let's keep going around that curved seam. Needle in, lift and pivot. So if you're doing like a Peter Pan collar, for example, that's a rounded curve. So that's, and on collars, generally they tend to be quite narrow and quite small. So you want to make sure that you have, you're getting that curve just right. So I'm nearly at the end, so I'm nearly at my other marker. How are we doing, guys? So when you get to your other dart, I want you to backstitch or reverse a good few times so that we can really secure that opening edge. Because when we stuff it, we're going to put quite a lot of pressure onto that seam. So let's really hold it together. And now remember, again, as I said, give yourself a nice length of thread, about 50 centimeters or so, and that will be what we use to sew it up at the end. So I'm going to move my machine over, and I'm going to bring the iron back over, and it's going to beep at me again. Okay. Right, so I'm going to cut off the threads that I don't want to use. Okay, so that's my starting point. So just snip those off. So what we're now going to do is press the seams open. And as I said, you know, pressing is a really important part in sewing because it just helps to set those stitches. So stretch and set the stitches. So grab your iron. And I want to press them open. So you can do it a few ways. I don't really advocate for this method where you are kind of just pressing the seam, one seam that way. I prefer, need a little more cable. I prefer to really open the seam up like that. And when I mean open up, I mean open it so that it is flat, like so. So it's a little bit awkward to press in this way because you're doing bit by bit by bit. Okay, but I just find that it then gives you a really nice finish. So I'm going to use the nose, so the pointy bit of my iron, just to press that seam open. I don't want to squish the rest of it. So you'll see I haven't actually put an indentation in. But you can see, that seam's already starting to open up nicely. So just keep going. It's a little bit fiddly, this, but just keep pressing little bit by little bit all the way around your curved seam. So just a little bit of pressing. Get out of the line of steaming. Ooh. There we go, there was dip. Okay, so you can see that my seam is staying nice and open. So just keep pressing that with the nose of your iron and just go all the way around. So we're going to just press that open because when we fill it, with our sawdust shavings, pet bedding, you could also use bits of fabric. So just I might turn that down a little bit. Just make sure that if you are using offcuts of fabric, that is cotton, because cotton can take a high heat. I like to use the sawdust because it absorbs the moisture and then it dries back out again. So it's a nice medium to use for the filling. And you could also use the balance of the sawdust if you wanted to make other little things where you want to maybe make little animals, or I don't know, use it for various things. You could make a doorstop and maybe put some cat litter in the bottom to weight it down, and then fill the rest of the body with the sawdust. You could do that. Who's got some other ideas on how you can use up the sawdust shavings? Right, just keep going round. So as I say, it's a little bit tricky and fiddly, but again, another technique that you're learning is pressing. So really, really important. PSP, pin, sew, press. Okay, so, and once we've stuffed it, you can't really, sometimes, when we fill it, it's not going to fill out totally if you haven't pressed your seam. So if you miss this step, then it might be that you really have to compress the filling to get it to take up the gaps in the seam allowance. I love that, Angela. Get a guinea pig. I think my daughter Elizabeth would love to get a guinea pig. That is not going to happen. We have a cat. So, and I think the cat trumps any new little creatures. But nice idea, Angela. Scatter it on your husband's workshop. You'll never notice. I love that, Anna. That's so funny. Oh, dear. So, okay. How are we doing on the pressing? Are we nearly there? Couple thumbs up. Let me know if you are nearly finished your pressing. As I said, this isn't a race. It's about having some fun. This steam is getting the better of me tonight. Okay, so you're going to have some serious fun. You're either going to love me or hate me at the end of this, because putting the filling in is a little bit messy. But it's worth it. I promise it's worth it in the end. Definitely worth it. There's something nice about making these sorts of things, every time you use if you think about when you're making a piece of clothing, I say clothing because I make a lot of clothes, and I love making clothes and garments, and I love helping people to make garments, especially when they fit them amazingly. And when you use these little things that you've made along the way, it just kind of fills your heart a little bit with some more joy. So it's nice when you use things that you've made. Okay, so we have hopefully now successfully press all our seams open, and we're now going to do some notching out. So on an outward curving seam, we're going to do a cutting technique now that I teach in my beginner course called, so we're going to notch out of the outward curved seam. So you have inward curving seams and outward curving seams, and we're going to be notching out of our outward curving seam. So this is outward curving. So what it means is we're going to be taking out triangular cuts out of the fabric, and it's going to reduce the bulk on the inside, because you can imagine that if you were to turn this around, you can see there's actually quite a lot of bulk over there. Now, what happens when you do invert, say for example, this was a collar, and you turn it round, you haven't notched. What tends to happen then is your collar curve becomes bulky with all the bits and pieces of fabric that are folding up against themselves in that curve. So if I take this side here and I fold back this curve, look at all of this excess. So you can see, there we go, now you can see nicely, look at all of the excess fabric. That is now going to cause lumps in the collar. So when you then go to press, you have these lumps in the edge of the collar. So, or it could be any curved seam, as I said, any application. So notching is, again, really important. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out those little triangular cuts. So we're going to flip the camera, and I'm just going to show you how to do a notch. So you'll see my stitch line, and I'm going to cut out a little triangle like so. So I'm quite close to my stitch line, okay, and I'm going to take out another triangle like so. So I'm going to do these notches about 1 centimeter apart all the way around my tailor's ham, okay. So it's going to look like a little hedgehog and be very pointy, but I'm going to take the notches out. I mean, you don't have to do it all the way, just around the edges where you can see. If you take your fabric and you fold it back on itself, so in other words, if you take that seam and you fold it back like that, you can see, okay, I need to take out another notch here. And then if I fold that, you can see, oh, I need to take maybe one here and one here. So I hope through, yes, both layers, Janet, you're cutting both layers together. Okay, so you see I've taken out triangles on the edge. So I'm going to, this is quite curved all the way around, so I'm going to cut my notches all the way around. As I say, it's up to you if you want to do the whole thing. I am going to go all the way around just to reduce the bulk and then help allow my tailor's ham to take the shape of the stitching line nice and curved. The darts, you can actually cut the ends off of your dart. You don't have to if you want. I have, because again, it's going to reduce the bulk inside when we turn it around. Okay, so continue to notch all the way around. So as I was saying earlier, notches would look like a little triangle like this, what we're cutting out, on a pattern piece. And so they are used in two ways. One for, as I was saying, about matching up the correct pattern pieces together when you're joining pieces together, and then notching out of an outward curve. So the terminology is the same, but they're just used in different applications. Okay, so same name, but it has two functions. Okay, so continue to just notch out of those outward curves all the way around your curved seams. Okay, and just keep going. Just mind your fingers when you're doing this. I'm just going over a thick bit of the dart. And I tend to use the nose of my scissor. Now, guys, just a little heads up, because I nearly did it. Make sure that you don't snip the top, so don't notch the top section where we've left it for our opening. Okay, so don't notch that, because we want to be able to stitch that closed. So we're going to need the fabric to help us seal the opening edge. Okay. Okay, so that's half. So that's what half of mine looks like. So now I'm going to go from this side around to there, avoiding, I don't want to cut off my two little ties. If you've snipped off your threads to close later, it's not a problem. You can just thread a needle and thread and close up later. So what I'm going to do is we'll turn this around. Once we've done all the notches, we're going to turn it the right way around. So you'll have your little pouch, and we're then going to start stuffing it with the wood shavings. So you may have to get your Hoover out tonight by the time you'll finish this. And the stuffing will take you a fair while. So I thought what I would do is I will get you going with filling it and just compressing and packing. And then I have got a sleeve roll that I have sewn earlier in the week. And I'm going to just show you how to close. Because it will take you a while to fill it. But what I would love for you to do is to please post me pictures of, or post pictures on our Facebook page or Instagram of your finished pressing equipment. So I'd love to see your finished pieces. So Tailor's ham and sleeve roll. It could be that you're just doing one. I think Donalyn, you're doing just the sleeve roll. You already have a Tailor's ham. So it would be great to see your finished pieces. So how are we doing on our notching? Are we getting there? Okay. I'm nearly there, and then we're going to turn it round. Yes, okay. Just wanted to make sure that I wasn't cutting beyond the starting point. Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm done with you tonight. We're finished. Okay. Right. Okay, so just having a quick little QC quality control check, checking that they're all notched out all the way around. Okay, right. So now we're going to, you're nearly done. Okay, Kirstine, that's no problem. So now I'm going to turn it right way around. Okay. Like so. Oh, look at that, it's coming together. There we go. So give it a good little shake. There we go. So we have our little pouch that we now have to fill a lot. So we've got our darts matching up nicely. Lovely. Okay. So turn your you ready for mess now? Okay, Stuart. Okay, good. Okay, so right, funnel. If you have a funnel, try and use that. I have various methods of apparatus to try and get the mess into the bag. So as I said earlier, I've done a mix of sawdust, of thick or large and small sawdust, and I took a piece of cardboard, the back of a writing pad, and I've turned it into a little funnel. There we go. So I've turned it into a funnel, and I'm basically going to pop my funnel into, this is where we hope it's gonna, oh, you see now, I should have waited and done it. I thought I was being clever and doing it ahead of schedule. Is it gonna fit? Okay, let's see. So we want to get, no, I'm going to have to make it a bit smaller so that it will fit into the hole, because I don't want to use the seam ripper. I could do, but I don't want to. Okay, so I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. Okay. Get my sellotape. So I just needed to make the hole a little bit narrower like that, so that it's actually gonna, yes, that's gonna fit. So And then I'm just going to tape this together quickly so that I'm not trying to hold the funnel in place while I feed the mess through the hole. Okay. Right, I think we're good. Okay. So just pop your funnel, that's better, in the hole like that and fill away. So literally I'm using a spoon and I'm just going to pour it down into the funnel. So the first, put as much as you can. You should have a big enough hole for it to go in. And just keep popping it in. Okay. So you're going to need to put a fair bit in. I must say, when I was doing the others, I was just using a piece of paper as a funnel and it was useless. I should have done this from the beginning. Okay. So just keep going and adding more and more sawdust. Okay, who else is anyone getting covered in sawdust yet? Okay, so I've if I squeeze it like that, I've put about half in. So now what I want to do is I want to pack it. Okay, so I'm going to squish it down. Okay, so you really want to press it down as much as you can. Don't put too much in. About half with it being loose, and then really pack it with your fingers. So you want to push it down. So you'll see now we started with half. Look how much that's compressed to. You see, but it's taking shape beautifully. And I mean, look at that lovely curved edge. Oh, wait, let's do it that way. See, look at that lovely curved edge. So that's going to really, really help you with your curves. Now, had you not notched that seam allowance away, I'm going to bring it closer. You can see how smooth that curve is. There's no lumps in that curve. You are totally, I'm guessing totally covered in sawdust. Oh dear, I'm sorry, Stuart. So I've squished that down. Now I'm going to put some more in. You might want to try my funnel out. Test, but use cardboard. Definitely not paper. Paper doesn't work so well. Okay, oh dear. So just keep packing it. Oh yes, okay, so we are going to need an evidence pic. Wendy's saying, Stuart, we're going to need a picture of the mess. That would be brilliant. Okay, so now you're going to just keep on going with this, okay? Just keep on going and just keep every couple minutes when you think to yourself, oh, just keep pushing that down, okay? It's really important to just think about something you don't really like and just imagine that being it. I'm a little bit sadistic, aren't I? Okay, so just keep pushing, and really compressing it, okay? We really want to pack it in there as much as possible. Make it nice and tight. Okay, so about halfway full now, but you can see it's taking shape beautifully. So just keep going with filling up. I'll post one. Okay, perfect. So Stuart's going to post one later. Perfect. Okay, so just keep going. When it gets difficult, it's the last little bit. When you are trying to get ready to close. So because you want to keep packing and packing and packing, because you want this to be as full as possible, because if there's any slack in the fabric, then it's not, you know, you want it must be nice and tight. Oops, I have a feeling I'm gonna get covered. And the dress I'm wearing is a material that likes to hold on to stuff. It feels gorgeous. Some fabric I got in South Africa on holiday from a material shop that I used to work in as a Saturday girl when I was a teenager. And regretfully, I believe they're not open anymore, which is quite sad. Oh no, see, I made a mess. Oh, okay. So I was glad to get it when I did. So just keep going. So if you guys want to have a little think about if there are any projects that you would like that are fairly straightforward and easy to do, I'm thinking along the lines for the next sew along to be a little elasticated waist summer skirt, and I'll be talking about which fabrics would best suit that little skirt. And the idea is that you're going to learn how to gather and how to attach a waistband, and the principle of attaching the elastic would be the same principle you would use if you were making a sweatshirt or a t-shirt and applying a neckband to a t-shirt. So it's the methodology is you're going to learn that little skill. After the skirt, I'm going to be doing a lesson on how to make your own vest top pattern from an existing vest that you have. Okay, so the idea is that you are learning skills and techniques that you can apply again and again and again. And with summer around the corner, well, I hope it's around the corner, spring. Okay, we're nearly in spring. I think it's about time to start working on some nice pieces that we're going to get to enjoy wearing when the weather warms up. So elasticated skirt to start with, and then vest top, and so something with an invisible zip. Ah yes, Angela, yes, invisible zips. They actually are not that difficult once you know how. So yes, we can look into something as to how we can incorporate that. But any ideas, you know, ping that over. So I'm about that far now. Oh no, Gillian, you knocked it all over yourself. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh wow, oh dear. That will have to be a pic too, please. Yes, zips will be. So I'll just have to think about how we can incorporate something with a zip. Oh dear, Jill. How are we doing with our stuffing? Apart from Gillian, who's now covered. I'm sorry about that, Gillian. Okay, how are we doing? So we're gonna just push that down. So you can see it's getting there. It's getting there. Just keep pressing it down. Pressing it down. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Keep going, keep going. Okay, so zips are looking like a, it's tiring. Angela, for you, those arms swim in the sea every day. Come on. Okay, you're not doing it. Okay, Donnellan, very messy. I know, I'm sorry, Kirstine. Well, are we having fun though? Please tell me you're having fun. Okay. Okay, my funnel is here. Is anybody else trying the funnel? You could use just the spoon. I think I've got a bit of it. There we go. I bet it is fun watching, Louise. I'm glad you're having fun, Kirsty, and that's part of today's session. It's about having fun. Something's always supposed to be fun. I'm glad you're having fun watching me for mine, Donovan. Oh dear. Okay. Oh, using it, yes. Oh, that's a clever idea. So Angela says that she made a funnel out of a plastic bottle and just cut off. Now that's genius. That's genius, you see? We all learn from everybody. That's fantastic. That's a really, really useful tip. Thank you, Angela. I'm glad you're enjoying, Cynthia. That is a fantastic, fantastic idea. Does he think you're crazy, Kirsty? Oh dear. Yes, that was handy with the pattern weights, using the funnel for the pattern weights. That made short work of filling those little bags. Okay, I'm getting covered too, so don't feel alone, Jill and Stuart and Christine. Oh dear. Okay, so how are we doing? I kind of feel like, I should move on and close. Should I move on and close, or do you want me to just carry on doing this until I've filled this thing? Or do you want me to get on to closing it up? Okay, how are we doing? Oh dear, it's going everywhere. Ah, dear. My Hoover's going to be, well, I should say, I hope my Hoover's going to be hungry. Okay, how are we doing? Oh, no, can't believe it. 9:30. Half 9. Oh, well done, guys, for hanging on. Okay. Oh, I must keep stuffing. I'm going to use the bottle method. There we go, Angela. You helping Donalyn out with the bottle method. Okay, I think my funnel is at it. Okay, so let's, okay, I think we're nearly there. Just keep going. So just keep pressing it in. Okay, now this is going to be interesting. Am I going to try this? I might need a teaspoon. This is going to end up everywhere. Now, I have made, oh goodness me, 4 sets. So I've done this 4 times. So this is my number 5 time. So I do feel your pain in being covered in sawdust. Oh dear. Just keep going. So we want to get that packed as nice and tightly as possible. See? And I hope that when you are using your tailor's hams in the future, it will bring a little smile to your face, and you'll remember the day that you made it and it got covered in sawdust. It's not every day that we do this, is it? So, right, let's keep going. I was going to say, I hope you think of me fondly as well, but I guess that will remain to be seen at the end. Okay. Okay, so just keep keep going. Keep going. Getting covered. Okay. I still got quite a bit to put in. I don't know how you guys are doing. Let's just keep filling. Yeah, sometimes it's better to get this all done and dusted, and then literally all the mess is done and out of the way. So your sleeve roll, you might want to carry on and finish both this evening, or you might think you've had enough for tonight and just do one of them. So yeah, as I was saying, you know, the filling takes the time, but just keep pushing. So make sure that it is nice and tight. I always wonder, there's no way, how would they do this in a factory environment? They'd have to have a compressor machine to like squish it in there. So we're almost there at the top, but you can see how nicely it's taking shape, literally. Okay, so just keep going, just keep going. Okay. Okay, so keep stuffing. Angela, you're halfway. How are we doing? So the sleeve rolls won't take that long to fill. So it's the Tailor's hem, oopsie, that takes a bit longer. It's a bit fatter. So just keep filling that up. Oh, this is messy. Oh, dear me. I'm thinking I should have worn an apron now. Oh, my word. Okay. So keep filling it out. Okay, so I'm going to push out to the sides now. Like that. And so that I can create the width in it. Make a little hole in the middle. And I'm going to try my funnel again. Going. And then just again compress, push it down and to the sides. Okay. Yes, yeah, yes, you're right, Val. But also, I don't really want to have a big amount of space to hand close. So it's a bit of a catch-22. You want to have a nice, you want to use the machine for most of the stitch work, so that you have less to hand sew closed at the end. Oh my word. There is stuff everywhere. But yes, you're right. If the hole is a bit too small, then it is a bit tricky. It's more tricky. Okay. So I think I'm nearly there. Just gonna put a couple more spoons in. And just pack it in. because, oh dear, because I want to make sure that I have enough. Oh dear. So, Stuart, you see, you're getting your own back on me now. I'm also getting covered. So we want to have enough, so pack it as much as you can so that it's almost full. And then we're going to, I think I'm nearly there now. Oh my. Oh, goodness gracious me, oh my. Okay, this was a really good idea when I started it, but I hope you've had fun. I hope you've had fun. Okay, so I think two more, and then I'm going to close. How are we doing? Another option is to do a sew along where we follow a pattern for trousers. So when I say trousers, like pajama trousers or loungewear, I don't know who would be interested in that sort of project as well. But as I say, the primary goal of these little sessions is really just to get you back at it, refresh a couple skills, or learn something new. So that's how full I have packed mine. So if you look at it like that, it is pretty much almost busting at the seams. Okay, so it's a little bit distorted, that, but anyway, we'll deal with that in a minute. So I am going to cheat now. I know I've left my threads, but they are actually tucked in there somewhere, and I'm not going to waste time trying to dig them out. So I have done a needle and thread, and I'm going to get ready to close. Is everybody okay with me doing that? So what I'm going to do is dust off the denim layer a little bit, and I'm going to feed out my denim layer so that it goes toward, like that, towards the blue. And then I'm going to take my blue folded and stretch it over. Okay, so just get this itchy nose now in the right place, and I need some pins. Okay, so I'm going to stretch my blue and white layer, and I'm going to pin into the fold, and I'm going to pin into the other side, like so. And I'm going to pin into the other side, so pin into the other fold, stretch across, and there we go. So I've now pinned that closed, and I'm now going to try and dust this off a little bit. Oh no, I just dropped it in again. Oh no. Okay, right. Okay, so now we're going to start to close. So I'm going to literally just go in, across and over and do a little whip stitch. Okay, so you guys have been fantastic sticking with me all the way. So let me grab my needle and thread. Okay, so let me move this out the way. All right, so needle and thread. I'm going to look for where my stitching ends, and just give it a second. There we go. So I'm going to just change over to back view. Okay, right, here we go. So we're now going to close. So I'm putting my needle through the denim layer and through the folded edge of the cotton layer, and I've knotted the end like that. So I've just knotted the end of the thread so that I've got a double thread. So I'm just going to put my needle through the loop and then tighten like that. And all I'm going to do is literally go in and out and in and out. Okay, so in the denim section layer and out the blue layer. Let me just try and, there we go. Okay, that I need two hands. So trying to manage the camera as well is tricky. Okay, so in through the denim layer and out through the cotton layer, and then just tighten up. In through the denim layer, out through the cotton layer. So we're just doing a little whip stitch. In through the denim, out through the cotton. So try and keep them nice and close together. In through the denim, out through the cotton layer. Okay. So I hope that you have seen that little bit of going in and out. So just continue to stuff your tailor's hands, and then just go in and out, in and out, in and out, all the way along the edge of your tailor's hand, that opening hole, or it could be with your sleeve roll, whichever one you are working with. So before we wrap up, any questions at all from tonight? Do we feel confident in sewing darts now? So just in and out, just keep going along. All the way along. So we want to go to the other dart that we started. So where we started and finished. So just keep going. I've got about another 10 centimeters worth of stitching. Still stuffing, but having fun. Goodness, oh great, I'm glad you're enjoying, Janet. Oh, I'm glad you've enjoyed, Anna, and I'm glad that it's useful. Stuart's very quiet. Oh yes, the tiny stitches at the bottom of the darts, yes. Yeah. Yes, Donalyn, I am in the new studio. My studio at home is now, well, you can't really get to it. It's a mud pit there. So, yeah, you can't really get there. So, no, I'm enjoying being in the new studio. It's weird being alone, though. It's very weird. I have to put lots of music on in the daytime, and but it is nice. It is really, really nice. It's nice and bright and spacious. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed, Christine. So I'm nearly at the end. I just want to give it a good pushing out so I can show you what you're aiming to have. So you'll see I'm kind of tugging on my threads every now and again, and that's just to make sure that I've gotten any little kinks in the thread out or any little loops, and there's no tension, so that the stitches are nice and firm. Okay. I am rushing this, so it's not my neatest work. So when you get to the end, do a couple on top of each other, and then we'll do a little knot and just send it back into the tailor's hem. Okay, so I'm going to just do a little knot nice and close, and I'm going to just push my, there we go, in. So I'm just kind of sending it down, out, and then pulling it out like that. Pull it. Oh, I was going to cut it, but it just snapped off, so that's absolutely fine. Surprised that I still remember how to do dots. Well done, Stuart. Well, 3 years, I know. 3 years ago. That's mad. Oh, you've got lemon scented filling, Jackie. That's great. Oh, it's going to look and smell good. That's for sure. Right. So I'm now going to give this a little bash. Get rid of all the extra wood shavings. Might as well just use my clothes because they seem to grab onto it really well. There we go. Okay. Now, so, my pleasure, Joel. I'm glad. Yes, no, that's fine. Finish off tomorrow. So, guys, well done for hanging in there. Send me some pictures, please, of your finished tailor's hams and sleeve rolls when you get around to it. Post on the Facebook page. But this is what you should. Mine's a little bit, I probably could have stuffed it a little bit more. I might open that up and add a little bit more. But basically, that is your finished tailor's ham. So you've got your dart at the bottom, giving you that lovely curved edge, nice smooth seams. And then you've got your curves on the top edge too. So that's where I closed, from that dot to that dot on the top. And there's your tailor's ham. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. As I said, next lesson will be a little skirt. Now you could make, I'll do a kind of Facebook Live talking about fabrics. But it could be that you choose fabrics from, like, say, viscose, or you could do linen, or you could do embroidery anglaise, you could do lace, you could do lots of different things. Skirts are really easy to wear and comfortable, so I thought it would be a good little thing to do. And if you have children and you want to make little skirts, you'll then know how to do it, and you don't need a pattern. So we'll just need fabric and elastic, but I'll do another little session chatting about that. If you're interested in joining, then send me a message. But well done. Hi, Anita. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed making your tailor's hams and sleeve rolls, whichever one you did make. And I hope to see you again next time. But have a great evening, the rest of it. Thanks for joining, and see you guys next time. Any questions, ping me over a message. But it's been lovely spending the time with you guys this evening, and thanks for all the chats and messages that have popped up. So glad you loved it. Night night.